Now, guys, I want you to know that when I say I have been waiting for this movie my entire life, I mean it. Okay? Let me start off this big ol' spiel by telling you why the original Space Jam is such a classic, specifically to me, with a very long-winded and rambling story. Because that's the only way I know how to tell stories. Like, if you know me, I'm very bad at doing this, and yet I continuously try. So let's get into this very personal experience. So back in the day, when I was a young and, probably like literally half my height, I don't know, you get the point, a long time ago or whatever. Me and my brother, we go to this summer camp every summer. It's in the summer, and you do plenty of things there, right? Like I don't know, like play sports or something. I don't remember, but I tell you what, I do remember. I do remember that, probably at least I don't really remember the exact figure because, like I said, my memory is so good. I do remember that about at least more than once per week, the camp, we'd sit down and we'd watch a movie film, right? Sounds good. It's what you do sometimes. But now this is back in the day, right? So, I mean, the counselors are not going to pull up Netflix or Quibi or something. You're just going to have to pick between whatever DVDs they had, which is the same DVDs every time. That it doesn't change. So, you've got the same decision every time, and what decision are you going to make? Well, that decision is very simple. You're gonna watch Space Jam every time, boys. That's what I'm talking about. This movie was the shit, okay? Actually, this movie still is the shit. This is a classic. I still have a great time watching Space Jam. It's probably just nostalgia. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious based on that story I told there. But I mean, come on, man. It's like, how I could try and be objective, but who cares? I mean, sure, there's some perks to being an objectively good movie, but I'm not doing that. This video isn't even a review of the first Space Jam, it's the second one. So I'll do that because now I have to look at movies objectively because I'm not a child anymore. But the point is, this is a good movie. Even if it's not, it's still a good movie, and we're just gonna move on. Can we agree on that? Okay, cool. It's a classic. Classics don't have to be good. That's not really true, but don't worry about it. The first thing I'd like to say about the movie is that it is weird as hell. I mean, in like concept and in just like individual scenes, pretty much everything about it. I mean, if you don't know the premise or even like what the movie's based on, there's a lot to dig into. It's a very nuanced subject. Okay, pay attention. So the movie is technically an adaptation of an ad campaign Michael Jordan did featuring the Looney Tunes characters, which is where it comes from, and it was just pretty popular. So obviously, I mean, some studio exec, probably smoking crack or something, they thought, based on this advertisement, they should make a feature-length film based on that. Of course, why wouldn't they? That makes perfect sense. But anyway, the actual movie. Well, it's pretty simple, so I'll just breeze through it real quick. Okay, so Michael Jordan retires from the NBA and plays Little League Baseball, which he sucks at, then he gets sucked down a golf hole with a magnet by Bugs Bunny to a cartoon world underground to help the Looney Tunes characters win a game of basketball against cartoon aliens. Well, they're all cartoons, except for Michael Jordan, but you already probably figured that. Also, one of the aliens is Danny DeVito. That's not super important, but it's very integral to the plot. Also, the cartoon aliens suck at basketball, but until they don't, because they go to the real world, which they can do, and steal the quote-unquote talent from other pro basketball players, and they play a game of basketball. And then did I mention there are Looney Tunes characters? So it's like a pretty normal movie, right? You mean like it's a classic, classic as Star Wars, I mean, Hero's Journeys, for cripe's sake, who wrote that? Campbell, whatever his name, Campbell's Tomato Soup or whatever. He actually is shamelessly ripping the monomyth off the story structure of Space Jam a whole 9 years before the movie came out. But he's the one who's ripping it off. I mean, it's truly unoriginal and kind of shameless, and it's kind of disgusting. Anyway, it's a great movie, and I love it. That's the plot. I hope you understood anything I just said there. Probably not. And the classic ending, where Michael, he jumps from half court, and then he becomes the Looney Tune himself, and he frickin' stretches his arm out from the half court so he can dunk the game-winning basket. Basket is when you throw the ball in but he's at half court. It's weird, and it's just I remember seeing that and I'm like, bro, a dunk from half court, and he just stretches his arm out. Why do they do that in the real game? Just stretch your arm out, dude. That's nutty. That's crazy. I thought that was epic, and I wish more people agreed with me. I feel like a lot of people hate on this movie, but I don't understand why. It's beautiful. There's truly amazing imagery, chock full in this gem. I mean, this kind of stuff, you'd never see this stuff today. It's absurd. So, how do you make a sequel to that today, in modern day? I mean, yeah, it's pretty confusing, right? You wouldn't really imagine that would be easy to do. So we're going to talk about that sequel, which now exists. Wait, I'm actually going to talk about the movie this video is reviewing? Who wrote that in? No, more backstory first, on the sequel this time, though. It's pay attention. So we're back at camp, right? You know, all the kids, you know, that we all love Space Jam, right? Because it's of course, actually, I don't need to explain. We all know that Space Jam is good. I'm just going to keep saying this so until it gets ingrained into your brain. It's like hypnotism. Anyway, everyone's like, they should make a sequel. They're probably not, because LeBron James is playing basketball, but they should. So it seemed this movie would probably never be. The fates never really would align as the circumstances would present. Because LeBron James, he's in the prime of his career when we're talking this time frame. You know, he's got to be training all the time. But, you know, I mean, LeBron James's career isn't over now for playing professional b-ball or whatever. But it seems like it's pretty close at this point. So what many athletes do in the scenario is that they go on to become an actor. I mean, of course, you know, The Rock, he's a famous guy. He was in the WWE, obviously, you know, Tom Brady, J.J. Watts, they both hosted SNL and did great jobs, I should say. That's the best joke I told in this video. So it's a pretty common decision. So with the role so pristine and LeBron finally having a chance to take on some other work, it seemed the stars had finally aligned, and this movie would have be made. Great stutter. And then this little old thing called the coronavirus pandemic came in, and they ruined it. They made this movie come out way later than I would have wished it had, but now it's finally here. You know, I was hyped for this movie. When I heard it, I was like, yes, let's go. But I mean, that was before, you know, everything shut down. And then I kind of lost interest. I wasn't really paying attention to it because I knew it would be a long time. But you know, time went on, and eventually this movie re-entered my perceptual sphere. When we got that first trailer. Actually, that's not true. The first time I heard news about this was the whole thing with you know, Lola Bunny when they were doing the character redesign. That's a really weird story. I don't really want to get into that. So I'm just going to talk about the trailer now, okay? Is that cool? That's a whole other thing. Watch a different video. I don't want to put that much effort into writing a script on that. It's really weird, man. Don't do that. Don't make me talk about it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Serious. Okay, I'll talk about it a little bit. So this Lola Bunny in the first movie, she's a real smoke show, real fox, right? I'm killing myself saying these words, but the point is that she doesn't have big boobs in the new one, and that's the whole story, and people on the internet are very upset about this, and I just wish I could delete the internet when I hear things like this, but we truly do live in a society. Anyway, the trailer, what do I think about it? It's horrible. It really concerned me. Now, the first thing I realized after watching this trailer is that it's pretty much nothing like Space Jam 1. I mean, you can kind of tell, because it says Space Jam at the end of the trailer. I mean, kind of throughout. It's just a lot different. LeBron, he's not like a bad actor in this, right? He doesn't show off a ton of lines. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of whatever. I also didn't know Don Cheadle was going to be in this movie, so that's pretty cool, I guess. He's a cool guy. I also noticed that I don't think I laughed at a single one of the jokes. I think there were jokes, but I mean, at times the jokes aren't even jokes. It just doesn't make sense. Now, it's a children's movie, right, or a family movie, granted, but that doesn't mean it has to be this stupid, man. Children's entertainment can be engaging for all audiences. It's been done well before, but this is not good, guys. This is very, very concerning, okay? But again, it is a trailer. Maybe the actual movie is not this bad. So, after seeing the actual movie, what do I think about it? This is the actual review. We're actually getting into now. This is what I'm trying to say. Alright. What do I think about it? Well, 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 I'm afraid to say it, guys, but it's actually the best movie ever made for one simple reason. They put Big Chungus in the movie. I'm not kidding, okay? Out of everything I was expecting, I was not expecting Big Chungus. Even though it's perfect, it's so obvious. I mean, it lasts like 1 second, and no attention is called to it. But to those eagle-eyed viewers like me, I saw it. I saw it. It was beautiful. Anyway, the real movie. It's not actually that bad. This movie is actually kind of hard to criticize in some regards because it has a clause attached to it. It's a family movie. I didn't really laugh at any of the jokes except for like a few subtle visual gags that I enjoyed, but nothing much. But it's a kids movie. Like I said earlier, it's pretty clear. And sure, it can do a lot better to appease all audiences, like have been done before, and I've enjoyed that very much. But it's not really trying to, so that criticism isn't really valid in this scenario. For example, on a show like Star Wars Rebels, a show that is bad for a large reason being that it's very much a very kiddie show and it's very inconsistent in its tone, but it still tries to tie in a bunch of elements that older fans will be interested, like Thrawn and Maul. Like if it was just a dumb kids show, then it would be fine. You don't really need to think about it, but it's not. But this movie is just it's just kiddie all the way through, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It's not trying to be something that it's not. One of the biggest problems with this movie is it's kind of just glorified advertising in many ways. Like, many of the scenes are solely there just to pimp out Warner's robust collection of recognizable IPs to many audiences. And it's just like soulless and it's really distracting throughout the movie. It's just like, why is this here? This is really awkward. And it just is not good. The next problem is the villain. The villain just sucks. Don Cheadle, Mr. Algae, doesn't have a shred of a motivation, and his plan, which is the driving force behind the plot, makes no goddamn sense. He wants to be recognized for what he does. I mean, he's a computer. Is he sentient? Is he gonna create Skynet and destroy humanity? No. He wants to play LeBron James in basketball in a live stream. And if LeBron loses, he has to stay inside the computer world. And if Al wins, then what? What does that do for him? Why not do things literally any other way to be recognized? It's really not that hard based on his abilities throughout the movie. The characters are also not even really characters. They're just caricatures. And I mean, this is like, I think this is kind of acceptable with the Looney Tunes, but LeBron and his son and Don Cheadle, they're all very two-dimensional, and most of the movie revolves around LeBron and his son's relationship, and it all just comes off being really flat and superficial. This is also totally a nitpick, what I'm about to say, but this movie has a lot of scenes about video games, but it's a movie, and no movie I have ever seen has had a natural scene based around video games. I don't mean like a video game adaptation, that's probably also true, but like a scene where the characters are playing video games, okay? And I mean, this movie commits the cardinal sin of dealing with that. The Xbox isn't even on, or the controller, you idiots, you amateurs. How could you forget to not do that? It's the most obvious thing. How could they not notice that or try to fix that? It's so simple. I really don't have anything overwhelmingly positive to say. I think LeBron is doing a sufficient job. It's not good, it's not bad, it's fine, it's acceptable. Makes the movie, I guess, a whole lot more palatable in the end. And just overall, the movie is just functional. If you don't think about it much, the story is simple and accessible. The cartoons are well animated, although you may develop ADHD from the haha so random insane humor employed throughout it. That's because it has to hold a child's attention, which is a lot harder than an adult. I actually don't even have that much to say about really any of it. I mean, or I forgot what I was gonna say, because the movie is pretty forgettable in the end. I like the joke with Michael B. Jordan in it. but it goes on a little too long, which the whole movie does as well. It's 2 hours long, but it's pretty simple. It's just LeBron and his kid get trapped in the computer world. Then LeBron recruits the Looney Tunes to play basketball, and then they play basketball. It's really just that final match that goes on too long, and it's not very good because the rules keep changing, and the tension is just never really there. It's not very good. Really, this movie doesn't deserve the same criticism I'd give other things, because really, it's just a kids movie, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't think kids movies really need to be reviewed unless they provide something that makes it worth talking about. I think this one kind of does warrant talking about, but it doesn't really need to be scored. But I'm still gonna do it pretty much just out of obligation. So I'm gonna give Space Jam: A New Legacy a 4.5. This isn't going to change your life, and I'm not even going to bother with the question of is the sequel worth the wait, because that question is almost always a no. But this movie is just okay, which is pretty underwhelming compared to if it was actually really bad, which would have been kind of funny in a way. But it's just whatever. In the end, I'm just looking forward to the threequel in 30 years starring Shaq Jr., can tie in Kazam, we can make a cinematic universe out of it. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, that's all, folks. You see what I did there? Now this face is gonna get another copyright claim on top of the 10 it probably has. That's pretty sick, bro. That's it. See ya.